Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, one of the most significant political personalities in the history of Southeast Asia, someone who is lauded as a visionary by many and derided as an authoritarian by others, someone who inspires a lot of admiration in his followers, but someone who is also the subject of criticisms of his opponents. One of the most controversial, one of the most larger-than-life politicians. I am happy and delighted to have him here today for episode 59 of Teh Tarik with Walid. So we will have Tun on, hopefully, and it will be a half an hour episode. So if you have any comments, any questions, please feel free to type them in. And we have really good numbers for a morning episode, and hopefully once Tun is in, we will have even more. Hi Tun.
Good morning
Good
to you.
morning. Thank you so
You're-
much for agreeing to do this.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. Yes. Yes. So let's get to it. We have half an hour. So the first question is, over the weekend there was some interesting development. You called Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim a dictator, and Datuk Sri Najib called you Mr. ISA. And I do think they do not have a leg to stand on, because they were both in your administration, and I don't recall them
Yeah.
saying anything back then. But my first question to you is, don't you think just objectively you were guilty of the same things that you maybe accused Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim of, in terms of suppressing the
No,
opposition?
I have to go according to the report by the security people, basically the police. If they ask me that if they tell me they have to do certain things, I was not in a position to say no, because I depend upon them. They are there to protect me, so I can't reject their advice. So when they decided to have Ops Lalang, for example, it is their decision. But it happened during my time, and I accept responsibility.
Okay. So there wasn't a time where you put your finger on the scale and you were the one who asked the police to do it instead of the other way around?
You know, when I became Prime Minister, the first thing I did was to release people who were detained for political reason. And say, I don't want such things to happen during my time. Consideration, the views of the security people. If they say they have to do something, unless I have very strong reasons, I cannot stop them. But in the case of Ops Lalang, I never expected them to detain so many people. And I actually told the police not to use the handcuffs. But of course, this is their standard procedure. They follow their standard procedure. I can't break that.
Right. Thank you, Tun, for the clarification. So what if Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim says the same thing? He says that, oh, it's not me who cancelled, it is the security forces who do these
now
things.
it is quite clear that many of the decisions are very political, in the sense that he feels threatened. So not allowing us to even launch our proclamation is something that is not democratic at all. We just want to launch our proclamation. It's not even a big meeting. Of course, there will be people attending, but he refused to allow us. Even after we shifted to 4 different places, still he didn't allow us. Whereas during my time, he used to have a demonstration every Saturday, and they were quite violent demonstration. I didn't stop him. See, he was free to demonstrate against me.
Okay. Thank you so much. So it seems that there is no love lost between you and Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, and it brings me to the question of the collapse of your Pakatan Harapan government. Did the collapse happen essentially because you were unwilling to hand over to Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, which is what
Not
many
at
people
all.
think happened?
I stick to my promise. I was chosen as the Prime Minister and I became Prime Minister. But there was no specific time for me to step down. But I promised I would step down. But there were so many things which I had to attend to because I don't think Anwar would be able to handle those things. That is why I delayed my stepping down. But before I could step down, the party lost, was overthrown. PH no longer became the government. So if PH is not the government, how could I remain prime minister? I couldn't. And I couldn't pass the baton to him because I was no longer prime minister.
Right. So just to clarify, Tun, so you had nothing to do with the Sheraton move. That was something that happened completely without your consent and assent.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Okay.
I was invited, but I didn't think it was proper. So I didn't attend.
Okay. So you were always going to hand over
Yes,
to Datuk
that
Sri
was
Anwar
my
Ibrahim.
promise. I will carry out my promise. But I also have to make sure that the problems I had to resolve is resolved before I hand over to him.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that answer. So then let's move on to the elections and your results in Langkawi. And I think there is no sugarcoating it. I mean, it was quite an abysmal performance electorally, right? So how do you feel? I mean, you were a prime minister for 22 years, Bapa Pemodernan, the father of modernization. Do you feel betrayed by Malaysians or Langkawi
Well,
voters?
after the election, we asked some of the voters why did they fail to support me, and the reply was that they were paid $100. But I told them $100 doesn't last very long. It can be last at most 2 days. What is their reply? They say, well, we got something, you didn't give us anything. See, so they valued the money given to them. But they forget that when I was a member of parliament for Langkawi, I provided food for them during COVID-19. I helped to repair their houses when the houses were blown down by storm or by fire. I did a lot of things for them, but they seem to have forgotten that. They only remember during election time, they were given $100 and they voted because of the $100. Of course, they give the excuse that they wanted me to rest and all that. Yeah, fine. If they wanted me to rest, well, I appreciate that. But why did they also help defeat my son, Numukris? He didn't need any rest, but he also lost, and many others who were young people also lost. So that talk about being old and wanting me to rest is just bunkum. Nothing. It's not true at all.
Right. Anyway, it's age is it's really it depends on how healthy you are, right? And you seem very healthy. And that's the question I wanted to ask. Is it possible for you to take a rest even? Is it in your
Well, I
nature?
keep on being interested in what is happening in this country. In one way or another, I will want to give my views and help. I don't want to become prime minister again. I don't even want to contest in election, but I will continue to be active by being with a political party and trying to help them achieve their objectives.
Right. So you said you don't want to be prime minister again, but what if Perikatan Nasional approaches you especially before the state elections, and they say, Tun, we need you to be the symbol, the symbolic figurehead of Perikatan
I
Nasional.
would
Would
be
you
a
say yes?
symbol without having to be Prime Minister.
So you're open to Perikatan Nasional
Well, it
approaching you?
depends. We have to think about it. Actually, at this moment, we are not aligned to any other political group or coalition. We are on our own. It is because many of the other groups are involved in certain misdeeds, crimes. We cannot associate them ourselves with them.
So Barisan Nasional is out of the picture.
Yeah, but
If that's the case, only
yeah, maybe
Perikatan is.
Perikatan, but Perikatan doesn't want me anyway.
What if they come to a realization that they need you, right? So basically, I'm trying to assess on your end.
I
Would you be
would be
open to
able
that?
to help,
And
but not become Prime Minister.
okay, right. Thank you so much. It's interesting also because Perikatan Nasional, the largest party in Perikatan is PAS. PAS is also the largest party in Parliament, and I wonder how you feel about that because you spent a large part of your first tenure as Prime Minister trying to fight the Islamists, trying to fight PAS, and you were always on about a moderate Islam, a tolerant Islam that's open. You even used scientific and rational a lot, and you said PAS was more extreme and PAS was more conservative. So how do you feel about that now that PAS is the largest party in the? Do you think you have failed in that regard because you spend your
PAS is
life
not
fighting
rigid. It changes depending upon the situation. It was even able to join with a party which has a DAP in it, despite saying that Muslims working with non-Muslim will become infidels. But they work with DAP. Subsequently, they broke away from DAP. But today, PAS realized that Islamic extremism is not something that they would like to follow. They are not like the Taliban at all. They don't kill people, but they want to work with other parties. And to work with other parties, they must not be extreme in their, objectives. So I've met them many times, and they are not even claiming to be a candidate for prime minister. They suggested other people from other parties to be candidate. So they are not going after full authority of prime minister.
Right. So you would say that the past of 2023 is different from the past that you fought
quite definitely.
when you were
At that time, I fought against them because they said that I work with non-Muslim, therefore I'm not a Muslim. But now they're talking to me.
Right.
So that means that their opinion of me has changed.
Right. Speaking of that, opinions of you have changed, right? The people who criticized you a lot, they have called you all sorts of names. They were willing to align themselves with you in 2018, right? How's your relationship with them? Like with the DAP, for instance, today, like when you see Lim Kit Siang, Lim Guan Eng, because for a moment, I mean, for the longest time, you were enemies and then you were friends for a while. What's the personal relationship?
Well, when
Political
they were in
relationship
the
aside.
opposition, they cannot very well say, I am a good prime minister. They have to demonize me, say I'm a dictator, I have cronies, etc. If they say I'm a good person, then they couldn't go against me. So to go against me, they have to demonize me. But then later on, they find that they needed me. And they knew that that accusation against me was false, not true at all. I wasn't a dictator. I didn't have cronies and all that. I helped everybody. So at the time when they needed me, they forget about what they have said before because they know it is not true. They said it because they were the opposition. Now that they are with me, they have to accept that I did not do all those things they accused me of.
Okay. So now you are cordial with them? If you see Lim Kit, you consider Lim
No,
Kit Siang
he
a friend,
makes
for
all
instance?
kinds of accusation against me now. But when I was the PH Prime Minister, he was reasonable. And I worked with him, you see. But now that I am not with him, then he comes up with all the old arguments.
It seems like in Malaysian politics, Tun, there is no permanent friend or there's no permanent alliance. Everybody can be a friend
Right.
one day and an enemy the next, and
Yeah,
then
right.
back to a friend.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So I wanted to ask, one of when you were campaigning before 2018, one of the promises which you did deliver on was for your administration to
Yeah.
charge Datuk Sri Najib. And I think that was justified. However, do you feel that that has set in motion? You have opened the door such that the door cannot be closed back. The new prime minister will always go after the previous prime minister, as we see now, like what's happening to Tan Sri Muhyiddin. Do you think that was a bad precedent? Because I remember in your documentary of Discovery Channel, you said that the reason Nelson Mandela was successful because he forgave all his enemies. Do you think that would have been an easier, a better approach? Not maybe the more moral one, but the better approach for national
Well,
reconciliation.
we don't want to encourage prime ministers to commit crimes. If we don't take action against a prime minister who has committed wrong things, then future prime ministers will also do the same thing. They will break the law because as prime minister, they will not be taken to court. So that is very bad. If there is clear evidence that you have done something wrong, the law must take its course. That is what I believe. If I have done anything wrong, I told them, you can take action against me.
Are you not worried, Tun, that political vengeance will
Well, they
strike
need to
against
prove
you
it.
as well?
They may want to take vengeance against me, but proof that I have done something wrong. And that means not just word of mouth, but also documentary proof. They say my children has got billions of dollars. Okay, proof that they have. Because in the case of Najib, there were documentary proof that he stole money. In the case of Muhyiddin, they need to prove that he took the money. But in my case also, prove that I have given money to my children. Prove it. And if it is proven, documentary proof beyond reasonable doubt, okay, but you can punish me.
Right. Thank you. So you are not worried about
I was
being
very
arrested or
careful when
charged?
I was Prime Minister not to do wrong things. I didn't even allow my children to take part in politics or to do business with the government.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tun. So Tun, now you have a wealth of experience and wisdom behind you, and I'm sure you take a macro look at Malaysian politics, right? Do you see any young leader or young leaders that one day could be
Yeah,
prime
it's
minister?
very difficult. You know, when I supported Najib, I thought he was the son of Tun Razak, so he must be a good man. But when he became prime minister, he proved to be a very bad person. So you cannot actually see. What you should think of is that if a leader fails or does something wrong, then stop supporting him. You know, when Najib stole money, UMNO should have withdrawn support from him, and he would not be the Prime Minister. But UMNO was paid money by Najib, and they are comfortable with the gifts from Najib, so they continue to support him. That is why he managed to be Prime Minister until he was defeated in the 14th general election.
Right. Thank you so much. So I'm just responding to some of the comments, by the way. The questions, a lot of them are off the cuff as well, and Tun did say through his assistant that he's willing to take any questions along the way, and I really appreciate that. So what about people like Syed Saddiq and Khairi Jamaluddin? Do you think Malaysia's future is in good hands with
I
younger
would like to
politicians
say
like that?
yes, but we find that people, when they become Prime Minister, they change radically. So I cannot be very sure. So what we need to do is that if they go wrong, never doesn't matter who, if they go wrong, stop supporting the person who has done wrong.
Right. But at the moment, you like what you see in the
There
younger
are some
politicians?
with potential, but of course we don't know what they would do if they become Prime Minister.
Right. Right. I guess that's the nature of power, right? Power reveals who you are, right? That you cannot see before you have power. So how do you make that assessment then when you are choosing
Well, as
somebody?
you know, I make a lot of mistakes when choosing. I accepted Musa as my deputy, but he went against me. I accepted Anwar, even help him, promote him to become my deputy. But you know, behind my back, he tried to, well, pull me down because he wanted to become Prime Minister. So you really cannot know how a person will behave once they become Prime Minister, or before they became Prime Minister, they want to become Prime Minister. What would they do? They will have to stab you in the back. That's what Anwar did to me. That's what Muhyiddin did to me.
Right. So I guess those two are also different in a way, right? So because Muhyiddin, I think, to my understanding, he doesn't publicly criticize you, even though, yes, the Sheraton move did happen. So is there more potential for reconciliation with Tan Sri Muhyiddin than Datuk Sri Anwar
I have
Ibrahim?
no problem with Muhyiddin, really. But I have to respect the law of the country. If he is proven to be wrong, then of course the law will take its course. I cannot interfere in that thing. But personally, I have no problem.
Okay. Thank you so much. So you already talked about your mistakes in terms of choosing successors, right? Now, if I were to ask you now, you look back at your storied career, right? It's an amazing career, right? What is your one biggest regret? Just one. Like, which one would be the biggest regret you think, or biggest mistake
My
you made?
the biggest regret is my inability to choose a successor. Every time I choose a successor, they turn against me. I chose Pala as my successor. Within 2 weeks of his becoming Prime Minister, he reneged on all his promises to build a railway line, to build a crooked bridge, and many other things. He promised he will continue with those projects, but he changed his mind when he became Prime Minister.
Right. So, in terms of successes, that would be your biggest mistake. Oh, by the way, all of this will be uploaded on YouTube, so please subscribe to Teh Tarik with Walid on YouTube as well. Then, Tun, my final question to you. So, 40 years from now, when people are talking to your grandchildren and they ask, who was your grandfather, right? Who was your grandfather? Who was Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, right? What is the biggest legacy? What is the biggest achievement that you want to be remembered for?
I really don't know. And I really don't care because I am dead and gone. It doesn't matter anymore.
But surely you must think about that, right? Like when you look back at your career, it cannot be that you don't think about which is the biggest achievement, things that you are most
Well,
proud of.
my biggest achievement is that I think is no case has been brought against me which is proven. They tried to put me about this so-called cover up of the 30 billion ringgit lost by Bank Negara. They cannot prove it. It's not true because Bank Negara doesn't report to me. They are independent. You can't imagine the governor of the bank coming to see me and say, we lost 30 billion ringgit, but please don't tell anybody. I mean, he would do that kind of thing. You see, why should I take the blame? Maybe this Bank Negara did that. You see, if they told me that they lost the money,
Right,
I will tell people they lost the money.
right. Okay. Sorry, Tom, we have a couple of minutes. I just wanted to ask this, right? Do you think that after you stepped down, you had the ability to be a statesman that was above party politics, but once you re-entered the fray as a politician, as someone who was contesting in elections, do you think that took away from your ability to have been a statesman, to be a national figure,
Well, to
reconciliated?
me, what people think of me is not important. What I can do to help the nation is important. When they asked me to come back, they asked me to become prime minister again. I thought that my duty is to become prime minister, not to think about what people think of me. What people think of me depends upon them. Some of them think highly, some of them think I've done a lot of wrong things. So it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, I definitely think a lot about you, and thank you so much, Tun, for doing this. I really appreciate it. And who knows, there may be a third Dr. Mahathir Premiership.
Thank
But
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Tun.
you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
doing this. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Enjoy
Yeah.
your
Bye.
Ramadan. Thank you.